Toys R Us was making $11 billion a year, 1,500 stores, 35 countries. Every kid in America knew that giant giraffe at the entrance. You walked those aisles. You begged your parents at that checkout line. This place wasn't just a store. It was basically a religion for kids. And then one day, the doors closed. Forever. Not because of Amazon. Not because kids stopped wanting toys. The real reason, the one nobody covers, is a single backroom deal that made bankruptcy inevitable before you even noticed anything was wrong. Let's go back to 1948. A guy named Charles Lazarus opens a baby furniture store in Washington, D.C. Nothing fancy, just a small shop trying to survive. But Lazarus notices something. Parents keep coming in and asking, "Do you sell toys?" So he adds toys. Then he adds more toys. Then he realizes toys are the whole business. By 1957, the store is fully transformed. Toys R Us is born. And from day one, the concept is different from anything America has ever seen. You didn't just walk into a toy section inside a department store. You walked into an entire world built just for kids. Floor-to-ceiling shelves, every toy you could dream of. And that giraffe, Jeffrey, standing there like he owned the place. Parents drove 30 minutes just to get there. Kids had meltdowns in the parking lot just trying to leave. This wasn't shopping. It was an event. By the 1990s, Toys R Us is untouchable. And you probably never even questioned whether it would always be there. $11 billion in annual revenue. 1,500 stores worldwide. They are the destination for every birthday, every Christmas, every "I promise I'll be good" moment a kid ever had. But here's what nobody tells you. While the shelves were full and the registers were ringing, someone in a boardroom was quietly signing a deal that would hollow out this entire company from the inside. We'll get to that deal in a minute. But first, you need to understand just how dominant this company really was, because that's what makes what happened next so absolutely devastating. At its peak, Toys R Us wasn't just a toy store. It was the toy store. Full stop. No competition. Nothing even close. They pioneered the concept of the category killer. A store so massive and so specialized that it wiped out every competitor in its path. Small toy shops? Gone. Department store toy sections? Irrelevant. Toys R Us ate them all alive. You want to understand how dominant they were? In the 1990s, Toys R Us controlled nearly 25% of all toy sales in the entire United States. One company, 1 in 4 toy dollars in America, going straight to them. Mattel, Hasbro, Lego. None of these companies could sneeze without checking with Toys R Us first. The retailers had all the power. Toy manufacturers literally needed their shelf space to survive. And the stores themselves, you remember what it felt like inside. The scale of it. Aisles that seemed to go on forever. Every action figure, every board game, every bike, every doll, every video game. All of it under one roof. It felt limitless. Charles Lazarus built something you assumed would always be there. Something that felt so permanent. Questioning it never even crossed your mind. But in 1994, Charles Lazarus steps down as CEO. New leadership comes in, and slowly, almost invisibly, the culture of the company starts to shift. The people running Toys R Us stop thinking like retailers. They start thinking like financiers. And that one shift from product people to money people is where the cracks begin. By the late 1990s, the stores you were shopping at, every week, Walmart, Target, were quietly starting to sell toys aggressively, pricing them low, using toys as a loss leader to pull families into their stores. Toys R Us starts feeling the pressure for the first time in their history. And their response? It seemed smart at the time. You would have probably thought the same thing if you were in that boardroom. They decided to go online. In 2000, Toys R Us launches ToysRUs.com. And for one brief moment, it looks like they're going to figure it out. Then came the deal. The one that changed everything. There were 3 mistakes that killed Toys R Us, and they all connect back to one decision. This was mistake number 1. In 2000, Toys R Us strikes a deal with Amazon. The idea sounds brilliant on paper. Toys R Us would be the exclusive toy seller on Amazon's platform. They'd handle the inventory. Amazon would handle the technology. a partnership, a win-win. Except it wasn't. What you need to understand about this deal is what Toys R Us actually gave up. They handed Amazon their entire online customer base. Every family who wanted to buy toys online was now going to Amazon's website. Not ToysRUs.com. Toys R Us got the sale, sure, but Amazon got the customer relationship. And that distinction, that tiny but massive distinction, is what made it a death sentence. It gets worse. Amazon, quietly and without telling Toys R Us, allowed other third-party toy sellers onto the same platform, directly violating the exclusivity agreement. Toys R Us eventually sued. They won the lawsuit. In 2006, the contract was dissolved, but by then, it was too late. Amazon had spent 6 years building the world's most dominant e-commerce platform, and Toys R Us had spent those same 6 years doing almost nothing to build their own. They thought they had a partner. They actually had a teacher, one who was studying everything they did and preparing to replace them entirely. But the Amazon deal wasn't even the worst part. What happened next? That's where it gets really dark. If this story is hitting different, subscribe. More of these coming too. And this one is brutal. In 2005, Toys R Us gets taken private in a leveraged buyout. 3 private equity firms, KKR, Vornado, and Bain Capital, purchased the company for $6.6 billion. Here's what you need to know about leveraged buyouts. The firms don't pay for the company with their own money. They load the debt directly onto the company they just bought. So Toys R Us overnight goes from a struggling retailer into a struggling retailer, now carrying $5.3 billion in debt. That's billion with a B. Every single year after that, Toys R Us is paying roughly $400 million just in interest payments, not paying down the debt, just the interest. $400 million a year, gone. Before they buy a single toy, before they pay a single employee, before they open a single store. You want to know why the stores started looking run down? Why the shelves felt emptier? Why nothing ever seemed to get updated or improved? This is why. There was no money left to reinvest. Every dollar that could have gone into the business was disappearing into debt payments instead. While Amazon was spending billions upgrading their technology and customer experience, Toys R Us couldn't afford to modernize their website. The private equity firms had handcuffed the company before the race even started, and the employees felt it. Store managers watched budgets get slashed. Maintenance requests went ignored for months. Hiring freezes hit locations that were already understaffed. The people working those floors every day, they could feel it happening. Something was wrong, and nobody at the top was fixing it. Mistake number 3, the final nail. By 2017, the debt had become completely unmanageable. Suppliers, the Mattels, the Hasbros, the Legos of the world, started hearing rumors that Toys R Us was in serious financial trouble. So they did what any smart business does when a major customer looks shaky. They tightened their terms. Some demanded payment up front. Others cut back on shipments, which meant Toys R Us, heading into the holiday season, couldn't fully stock their shelves. Think about that for a second. A toy store couldn't fully stock their shelves at Christmas, and you know what happened next. Customers walked in, saw the gaps, walked out, and opened Amazon on their phones right there in the parking lot. The one competitor they had spent 17 years handing their customers to. In September 2017, Toys R Us files for Chapter 11, bankruptcy. $5 billion in debt, 700 U.S. stores, 33,000 American employees. By June 2018, every single store is thing about Toys R Us that hits different. When you really think about it, they didn't fail because they were bad at retail. They failed because 3 private equity firms used them as a financial instrument, squeezed every dollar out of the company, and left 33,000 people without jobs and millions of families without a place that genuinely felt like childhood. The lesson isn't just don't take on too much debt. The lesson is this: when the people making decisions about your future are financially motivated to extract value rather than build it, the outcome is almost always the same. You see this pattern everywhere, not just in retail, in companies, in careers, in relationships. When someone is optimizing for their exit, not your growth, you're already on a path toward an ending. You didn't choose. Toys R Us trusted the wrong partner twice. First Amazon, then the private equity firms. And each time those partners walked away richer, while the company and the people inside it paid the full price. 33,000 people lost their jobs. Not because of bad luck. Not because the world changed overnight, but because a handful of people in boardrooms made decisions that were never about toys at all. Jeffrey is still out there, by the way. The brand technically still exists in some form, licensed and rebranded in a few locations, but it's not the same. It'll never be the same. And maybe that's the most honest lesson of all. Some things, once they're gone, don't really come back. They just leave a gap where something real used to be. If this story hit you the way it hit me, drop a like. 33,000 people lost their jobs over decisions made in rooms they never even walked into. That story deserves to be heard. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. We'll see you in the next one.